Hello.
Hello, police.
Yeah, what's the problem, sir?
We just drove down our farm track.
Yeah.
Go and feed our pheasants. We come across a Range Rover with 3 people in it.
Yeah.
It appears that they're dead. I don't know what's happening. Blood in the motor all over them.
And welcome back to a new video on the Essex Boys case. As always, if you are enjoying the content, please do give the video a thumbs up. And if you're interested in the Essex Boys case or simply true crime in general, don't forget to hit the subscribe button below. The following newspaper article comes on the 21st of January 1998 with the headline, Paul Betts, Give Killers a Medal. The tentacles of a murder investigation can be far-reaching, and the day after the killings they alighted on a rather sensitive nerve, the parents of Leah Betts. Detectives descended on the couple's Latchington home to grill Paul Janet and were soon forensically testing the pair's shotguns, clothes, even taking fingerprints. Mrs. Betts said, "You can imagine my horror when the police arrived. Needless to say, it was not a very pleasant experience, although they assured us from the outset they were sure we were not connected with the murders in any way." The couple had taken the scenic route back from Leah's grave on the day of the shootings, passing close to the scene of the murders. Later that day, Paul, who was labelled a dead men's scum, had driven through the area again, testing out his Lada car's four-wheel drive on the snowy ground. Another reason police were keen to talk to them was the couple's guns were used for clay pigeon shooting. The 3 men were shot with cartridges popular with people who follow the sport. Luckily, they were being filmed by a TV crew and named a reporter who interviewed them. The couple were questioned because Leah died after taking ecstasy from Raquel's nightclub in Basildon where Tucker ran the drug supply. But Detective Superintendent Ivan Dibley, who led the investigation into the killings, revealed the Betts were never serious suspects. Quote, "We work on a process of elimination and had to question everyone who had access to guns." Paul, writing in his diary a year after the killings, recorded his feelings about Tate, Tucker and Rolfe. He wrote, "This vengeful feeling is not Christian, I know, but at the moment whoever shot these 3 men in Rettendon should be the one getting a medal." The next newspaper article comes from the 12th of September 1997 with the headline, I did illicit deals with corrupt cop. Supergrass admits to scams as barrister questions his evidence. A Supergrass at the centre of a triple murder trial has sensationally admitted illicit deals with a corrupt Essex police officer. Darren Nichols, who claims he drove the getaway car after the killings, also told the court he would have done anything to see the 2 men he is accused of the executions arrested. Nichols was clearly uncomfortable and often angry as he was cross-examined in the Old Bailey dock. He admitted being an informer for the corrupt officer who has been referred to as Detective Constable A in court. But Steele's defence Graham Parkins QC told him, "You were involved in illegal activities with him and you profited from what that officer did and what he allowed you to do." Nichols got to know the policeman only weeks after the shootings, and Mr. Parkins claimed that both Nichols and the corrupt officer plotted to board a North Sea ferry and steal £150,000 being taken abroad to buy drugs. They then planned to make amphetamine, then use it to set up 2 men who had displeased Nichols. It was also revealed in court that the officer arranged for Nichols to sell drugs to customers and then pass on their names and details so he could arrest them and win promotion. Nichols told the senior officer about 60 kilos of dud cannabis which he had dumped in a gravel pit and then blamed 2 innocent men for putting it there. The officer let Nichols receive a £400 reward for his public spiritedness and they bought drinks together to celebrate. Nichols claimed he only became involved with the officer in a bid to get back at the 2 men he claims killed Tate, Tucker and Rolfe after they had fallen out over a cannabis deal. Quote, "There was no limit to what I would do to try and get him to arrest Womes and Steele," he admitted. But Mr. Parkins rejected his claim. "Despite what you and that officer were up to, you never once told him, even when raised the question of Rettendon, that you claimed to know who had committed these murders." Nichols admitted he hadn't. When questioned about Officer A by other police, Nichols claimed he was just an informer. But when those officers told him they had recordings of his telephone conversations with Detective Constable A, he said, quote, "Oh dear," and laughed. Nichols told the court, "I laughed because the tape didn't matter to me. Compared to the trouble I was in, that was nothing." Mr. Parkins, pointing at Steele and Womes, said, "Yes, by then you had made allegations in another direction." But Mr. Nichols, how does one know when you are lying and when you are not? The case continues. The following newspaper article comes from the East Anglian Daily Times, dated the 21st of January 1998, with the headline, "Tragic Leah's parents were prime suspects." Less than a day after the discovery of 3 bodies in the Range Rover, the parents of Essex ecstasy victim Leah Betts were hauled in by police as the #1 suspects for the killings. Detectives uncovered the identities of the 3 dead men and realised they were suspected of operating a drug-dealing ring which took in the Basildon nightclub where Leah Betts bought her fatal tablet. She died after taking the ecstasy tablet on her 18th birthday, just 4 weeks before Pat Tate, Tony Tucker and Craig Rolfe were murdered. Working with speed to outmanoeuvre the media, detectives arrived at the Betts-Latchington home, which is just 10 miles from the Rettendon murder scene. They took them off for questioning. "I thought it was a big joke at first," said Paul Betts. "It wasn't until they took us separately to Chelmsford to be interviewed that I realised it was a bit more than that. They didn't give us any favours. We were treated like suspects." Not only could the police make a link between the deaths of the dealers and Leah, they also discovered that Paul and John Betts were keen clay pigeon shooters and owned their own shotguns, the same kind of weapon used to kill the 3 men. Mr. Betts said, "I was their #1 suspect. I had the motive, I had the means, and I had the ability." The couple both say they were unnerved by the day-long questioning, but a concrete alibi was produced in the form of Anglia television newsman Timothy Evans, who was carrying out an interview at their home at the time of the killings. Despite being cleared by police, Mr. Betts said an air of public suspicion continued to surround them for weeks after the killings. In fact, people even approached him and congratulated him for doing a good job. However, Mr. Betts maintains the killings were too good for the drug peddlers. The way they were killed was too neat for them. They were taken out very nicely and very sweetly, but they deserved a long, lingering death, he said. The following newspaper article comes from the 21st of January 1998, with the headline, "The mobile rang, there was no reply." As Tony Tucker's shot-ridden body lay slumped in the Range Rover, a chilling message was left on his mobile phone. "Let us know you're alright, because we think you're dead. We've just heard that 3 men have been found dead in a Range Rover, and we think one of them's you." All 3 victims were known to be quite high up in the drug-dealing hierarchy, which thrived upon the pubs and clubs of Essex, where Leah Betts took the fatal ecstasy pill. Tucker was suspected to have been involved in the chain which ultimately supplied Leah with the killer drug. Tate, 37, from Basildon, spent time in hospital after somebody tried to kill him, a failed assassination attempt. There are also claims that Rolfe and Tucker had killed a rival drug gang member before their deaths. It is widely accepted that there could have been vast numbers of people out to kill Tate, Rolfe and Tucker. Steele's defence barrister Graham Parkins asked one retired policeman during the trial, "There were literally dozens of names being put forward as being involved with these killings. Is this true?" Retired Detective Inspector George Florence said, "Yes." Craig Rolfe had been the subject of an undercover operation by Essex police officers in the weeks leading up to his death. Detectives had been very concerned with the supply of ecstasy in the county and were clamping down on dealers and suppliers. Rolfe had also been seen buying a gun from underworld crook Mad Mick Bowman and a third person just before his death. Mr. Florence was also one of the senior officers behind an undercover operation carried out by 2 policemen on defendant Michael Steele and former girlfriend of Tate, Sarah Saunders. 2 detectives, known simply as Billy and John, claimed to be members of the IRA and allegedly threatened to kill Steele in a telephone call. Florence denied any knowledge of the death threat. The following newspaper article comes from the 21st of January 1998, with the headline, "Verdict Breaks Tension." The trial of gangland killers Jack Womes and Michael Steele is among the biggest covered by the Evening Star in recent years. Brad Jones gives his account of the drama in Court 2 at the Old Bailey. Jack Womes and Michael Steele met their downfall in the most imposing of historic courts in the land. The scene of many famous trials, Court 2 is an impressive sight, high wooden panelling almost dwarfing the people inside. Since September the 1st, the violent Essex underworld had been brought into the chamber. Jack Womes and Michael Steele had appeared relaxed during most of the proceedings, both seemingly sure they would be acquitted. But as the trial neared its conclusion, the stress began to show. Then at around 2 p.m. yesterday, the tension gripping the court was almost tangible as the jury filed in. It had been a gruelling 4.5-month trial, followed by 4.5 days of deliberations. Some had speculated that the longer the deliberations went on, the better the chances of acquittal. About 20 reporters from press, television and radio had gathered at the court. The judge entered the courtroom and the defendants were brought up into the dock. Flanked by 5 security guards, 3 armed police officers were also waiting close by. The jury walked in at 2:15 p.m, not one of them making eye contact with the defendants. It was a telltale sign of what was to come. The fate of Womes and Steele was sealed as the woman foreman of the jury gave the unanimous verdict. What followed was a mad scramble outside the courtroom as the verdict was phoned through to news desks all over the capital and East Anglia.